the impossibility of getting laid in 2026. When you hear a statement like that, when you hear a phrase like that, you would think that I was actually exaggerating, right? You'd think that this guy's full of shit and it's just like making a bold claim to attract people's attention. But in fact, I'm actually telling the truth. It is virtually impossible to get laid in 2026. Basically, might as well be impossible. You're gonna tell me that there's a small number of guys. You're gonna tell me there's 5% of dudes. Well, if it's 5%, it's very close to zero, right? It's not 40%. It's not 50%. It's 5% of guys who are actually able to do it, and nobody else can. So it's basically impossible for 95% of people. Well, you say, well, why is that? Why is it so difficult? What is it about it that makes it hard for the majority of people to even be able to dream? And it's like you could come up with a plan, you could come up with a strategy, you could have this whole thing mapped out and still not work. So it's like you can't even figure out, you can't even hack it. Like you can't even, like look for some kind of way to bypass it with a lot of effort and intensity. There's literally nothing you can do. It's like trying to bypass the laws of physics. Not gonna work. Not gonna happen. So it's basically the same thing. That's why I said it's impossible. I didn't say it's hard. I didn't say it's challenging. I didn't say with enough effort. I simply said it's just fucking impossible. And guys tend to learn that lesson the hard way. There's guys out there trying to bypass the game, and what happens is they either end up with a lawsuit, end up in jail, getting their ass whooped, or spending just a ton of money for a subpar experience, and then they look back and they learn their lesson. And it happens every single day. It happens more and more. Again, guys are much better off just accepting the truth for what it is. Just accept the truth and accept the fact for what it is, and not try to. It's like you're trying to fight a systemic problem by using your own individual means, and unless you have a ton of money and a ton of resources, I just don't see how that's possible. You're like, I'm gonna use my game, and I'm gonna use my tactics and my personality to bypass the whole system. That's typically not the way it works in life in general. You can't just force your way and bypass a whole sort of like, let me go back that way. That's a whole systemic issue. That is generally not the way it works in life. Okay? So I'm just gonna bypass the system. I don't think that works. Right? I don't think you can do that, unfortunately. And it's sad, to be honest. Like I really would have wished that there's something you could do about it, right? Because in life in general, we love to think that people have agency and they can solve problems and they can figure things out and it's not completely out of their control. But when it comes to the dating game, it feels like it's been decades of setting things the way they are, and that therefore no individual can go against that. So even if you had some agency left, it's just the amount of time it would take to fix it is just too long. decades of work would be required. It's like, you'd have to get together with like thousands of people and say, hey, how can we fix this problem? Right? Actual activist work is required, not just one guy or a few guys online, a few dating coaches trying to discuss these ideas. You need thousands and hundreds of thousands of people getting behind this movement to create some kind of momentum, and then to do it nonstop for like 25 years before you can even dream of seeing a change. That's what you need. 25 years of nonstop activism. Is that gonna happen? I doubt it. Probably not. I'm not that optimistic, but maybe I'm just more of a pessimist in general. Maybe I'm not the person that you want to look to. Maybe I'm not that guy. Just in general, maybe don't want to take my advice on that. But I'm being honest with you. I'm actually like, in my own situation, and I see how I'm affected by it, and I'm telling the truth. Yeah, it's not like I was excluded from that experience. I'm very well a part of that experience. I know what it's like. I go through it every day, and my friends know what it's like, and they can relate to the point that I'm making here. Okay? Surely not rocket science. Oh, I wish things were better. Not quite. I wish that you could actually do better from a social standpoint. But it's almost like, in order to have a social life, you need a ton of money. It's like there's a financial barrier to entry, but it's a very high financial barrier to entry. It's not just like, oh, you have a job and you make $50,000 a year, and after you pay taxes and after you pay your bills, you have enough money left so that you can actually go out, once a week and, have a good time and buy some drinks with your friends. And it's actually not that. That's actually not the reality that you encounter. The reality that you encounter is a reality where you need a ton of money. You need to be at a certain status. Just making 50 grand a year is not going to be enough. You probably need 10x that. And if you have 10x that, let's say you make 500 grand a year. Well, a big portion of that money would have to be spent. Well, it's not like, oh, you're making 500 grand a year and you pay 150 in tax, 30% roughly. You have 350 left, and then you spend 50 grand a year and you save $300,000. Yeah, that's probably not gonna do it. You're probably gonna have to spend like 100 grand a year, 150 a year. It's like the costs just keep going up and up. So even for people making above average income, they have to spend way more than above average. Right? So it's not like, okay, you make 5 times more than the average person and you spend 5 times more. No, it's much more like you spend 10 times more, you spend 20 times more. That's why you see even people who make a lot of money, even people who make 6 figures, they feel like they feel like they don't make enough money, even though when you look at their income, you would say 300 grand a year is a lot of money. But to somebody making 300 grand a year, that's actually not enough. Because they're competing with somebody who make $1 million a year. Right? They're competing with somebody who make $5 million a year. You know, and the guy who makes $5 million a year feels like he's competing with somebody who makes 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. It's like the competition never stops. And as long as you could see that the highest paid people are in the billions of dollars, it sort of drags the competition up. Even if it's artificial, but it's not like, well, so-and-so has a $1 trillion net worth. It's not real money. Most of it is, so like, let's say artificial, to make it simple. Well, you're still competing with that guy who has a net worth of $1 trillion, because in the public perception, that's the amount, right? Even if you say it's not a real amount, that is like the new standard. That's like the new gold standard. It's $1 trillion. And then you work your way down. It's $1 trillion, then the next guy has 500 billion, and the next guy has 300 billion, and the next guy has 100 billion, and you keep working your way down. And and the next guy has 50, 20, 10, until you get all the way down. That's basically the way you want to think about this. So that's kind of overwhelming. It's overwhelming for sure. And again, you may say it's not a real number, but it is a standard. So, what is the way forward? Well, it's funny how the social dynamics are gonna be what actually causes whatever collapse you could think of. It's not gonna be climate change. It's not gonna be any of that. It's gonna be the social dynamics that are gonna cause the first collapse. Obviously, whatever happens after that happens after that. But I'm saying the primary collapse that society is gonna experience is gonna be a social collapse, right? Whether there's a climate collapse or a demographic collapse, that is only a byproduct. That's very interesting that's how it worked out in the end.